Okay, so just on communication styles, and I'm just going to tell you what. You're getting tired of hearing me talk, so I'm going to breeze through some of these things here. So some suggestions for you in terms of more, 8 ways to effectively communicate your strategy a little bit more. So once again, keep the message simple. What matters most is that you establish relevance for everyone within your organization in terms of what you need to do. So it's not only about what you're doing, but how it's going to affect them as well. So when you do that, keep the message simple, but deep in meaning as well. So it's got to have some relevance for you. And the more relevance it's going to have, the more successful you're going to be, okay? So the second point here is build behavior based on market and customer insights. The one thing most organizations do is they do outside surveying, okay? And they do everything's outbound for communication programs. But there's very few people that actually build internal campaigns based on market and customer insights that bring your strategy kind of to life for employees in the agency, right? I see that all the time because everything is outbound, outward focused. So what are you doing internally to actually educate people? Because those are your proponents, those are your ambassadors, right, that are out there, all right? Point 3 here is use a disciplined framework. So, I'll give you 3 tenets on this. Create some messaging that's inspiring. It's particularly important when you're sharing significant accomplishments or introducing a new initiative. Try to educate people as well, okay, in terms of what you're trying to do. Educate your teams on the validity of your strategy and the role of your execution and what you're trying to do. Reinforce what you're doing as well. So you need to repeat messages. And if I sound like I'm being repetitive, because there are a few cardinal rules, once again, in communications at work, okay? But repeat your message. Once again, look at your audience and have it come down once again from an authority on a recurring basis, okay? Point 4 here is thinking broader than a typical CIO, right? So, and this is an interesting concept here too. So, a lot of times, once again, it's top-down communication. But employees are a lot of times more likely to believe what the agency heads are saying if you hear similar arguments from your peers, right? So the one thing you should do is try and designate or develop a team of employees actually to serve as ambassadors to deliver your program message, okay? I bet you don't do that, do you? Okay? So that's actually pretty good. Once again, think of it in terms of roving diplomats, roving ambassadors. Point 5 here is put on the real person hat. Nobody likes corporate speak. Nobody likes government speak. It's even worse. Oh my God, right? So you want authentic, real messages that people can relate to. So if it sounds phony to you, don't do it. Don't do it. And probably more than anything else too is tell a story. Okay, because people like to hear stories, right? Everything. Really good storytelling, PBS, great storytelling. It's compelling, it draws you in, right? Point 7 here is 21st century media. So we kind of try to bring that out for you. So if you're behind the curve, which I know you are in some instances, think about it, bring it forward, because it really isn't going to go away, okay? And social media is really where it's at. So I think you'll see a radical transformation. Once again, you'll be a hero. You just need to spend some time understanding the medium, okay? And then lastly is just making the investment. And that really gets down to what I was saying earlier about funding internal communication campaigns. So whether it's amongst employees within an agency or interdepartmental effort is to actually make the effort to kind of do that, okay? Okay, so now that we've done all that, what else do you need to do? So you've identified the stakeholders, you've kind of looked at the benefit steps and the measures, you've kind of addressed negative perceptions and kind of noted those interactions. Your goal here is to build support across various groups. And more importantly, what you've got to do is share the credit for the success or That's much the failure, right? Because we're not going to go there. But is to kind of share that. So that's what I mean by kind of, assigning anxiety. Because it's one, if you want to really look at it as one large family, to make this project a success, that's kind of what you need to do. There's a lot of reasons for program failure, ineffective stakeholder communications. I've been in many meetings like this. All right, so you get some key things here. You didn't anticipate the need. You were shooting from the hip. You didn't scan a report. So you always have to keep your ears open. Talk to a lot of people. Be timely in terms of your responsiveness. I know that I really appreciate that, because even if you're too busy, just say, I'm too busy, and I'll get back to you. But for a key stakeholder, if you just go dark, man, you lose instant credibility, believe me. So the other thing too is no project's imperfect, or I should say perfect. So you're going to have limitations, acknowledge those, and let people know what you're trying to do to fix those. Okay, so that gives you instant credibility. And the other thing too is when you do something good, share it amongst all the stakeholders. So give everyone a reason to celebrate. Okay, because I don't think there's enough of that actually. So I'm going to buzz through this. Tips for dealing with project opponents. So here's that checklist I was telling you about. So, and I'll just go through a couple of these. You can make some notes, and once again, all of these presentations are going to be available online for you, so you can use them as reference points moving forward. When you're dealing with project opponents, I guess kind of the obvious thing is, do they have a valid opinion or view of this stuff, right? Or do you think, you guys are just a blithering idiot, right? So that's the important thing, because what you want to do is diffuse that. Look at the influence of that particular project opponent and see what you can do. I'd suggest sitting down with a team and actually doing kind of, once again, be a little politically savvy here in terms of what-if scenarios. Preface the message of what you're saying within the context of wider organizational benefits, okay, in terms of where your department's going, so people feel that there's like, oh, we're doing this for what reason? Okay, so think about that. Take an educational approach. I had mentioned implementing changes to business processes, so it's important to understand and identify who's actually going to be affected by that, and who can change it, and who's going to understand it and not understand it. So if I had to give you a supreme example of not understanding kind of change management, in communications, it was the first healthcare initiative that Hillary Clinton did to try and get the first healthcare reform done. And part of that was she did not include all stakeholders in that initial communication and analysis. So she got and it was a complete disaster. Okay. So plan all issues raised by project components are going to be addressed. Okay. Involve project sponsors and project companions in planning to respond to any resistance you might change, okay? And the other thing here too, which may not seem too comfortably, but deliver the bad news face to face to your detractors. That actually is disarming, amazingly. I guess then I'll close on this little section by just saying, for some individuals, you probably don't, and who may be important, you don't need to formalize a planned approach. There are some stakeholders you're not going to be able to please, so you're not going to be able to win. So you need to mitigate. All right, that's always going to be the case. So the question is what are you going to do to mitigate? Okay. So I'm going to quickly, since I am actually talking too much, I'm going to quickly go through these. So I won't go in great detail. These are lessons from Capitol Hill. Okay, that tie in not only communications but survivor skills for the project manager. Okay, so a lot of this touches on what makes a politician great. Okay, in terms of where they're going and what they need to do. So keep in mind when you're mapping the political landscape and keeping your map close at hand, a good politician always understands who's with them, who's against them, and who's sitting on the sidelines. So they do it consistently by placing themselves and their peers, talking to their constituents, okay, and other stakeholders. So you can do it, and they do it, by the way, in a systematic way through polling and research, okay? So program managers can do the same. You can absolutely do the same thing. So be flexible. It's the second major point here. Now that you're getting good at listening, you may get guilty of sticking to a plan and forging ahead, stop or rethink this, whatever the case may be. And you may need to make some correctional decisions. So, a lot of politicians are accused of taking flip-flopping back and forth, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because they're growing, as a project manager. So nobody likes to do that because you feel like you're kind of backtracking. So go out and get the vote and thank your campaign. So once again, this is a matter of think politically, think about actually putting together a campaign. At the end of the day, what you do want to do is you want to thank your supporters or your campaign team to help you actually get there. Okay. Bipartisanship aside, you do want to reach across the aisle and get things done. Okay, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Point 5 here is honing your key message and stumping it relentlessly. So this is the whole idea of repetition, right? The whole point is that a good politician, like a good communication director, constantly works on his message and refines it every single time and continues to stump it over and over and over again until people get it. So that's what you need to do with your communication efforts. Point 6 here, creating a cabinet. You need a fan club, all right? So create your cabinet. You need your cohorts to help you out, okay? And it's not just simply people within your department, it's all up and down. So everybody is really on the same team. And then lastly, at the end of the day, be passionate about what you do. This enthusiasm will come across in your communications and everything that you want to do. Okay?